This is Brent with Lykins Motorsports, and this is our World Products man of war block for our 464 cubic inch Clevor build. And if you remember where we were from our last video, we did a whole lot of clearancing on the cylinder skirts, and I had to do a whole lot of work to make the rods clear. So this has been jet washed, and the purpose of this video is a lot of you guys have been asking how I paint and prep the block, so we're going to use this opportunity to show just that. And I would say that when you have a block machined, most shops will run it through what's called a jet wash. And hot tanks are not available anymore. The EPA kind of put the kibosh on that sort of thing, since it has lots of caustic materials in the solution. So everybody has pretty much went to the jet wash, which is just a big washing machine for engine blocks. And this block has been jet washed, but we're going to go through it again. And what I usually do after it's jet washed is I pump a solvent through all the oil galleries, and I do that after I run a brush through, but I pump solvent through to make sure all the galleries are clean, and you'd be surprised at what comes out. And I'm not saying that you're going to get big chunks or anything like that, but you will get some dirty looking water or dirty looking solvent when it first flushes through. So we're just trying to ensure that we get as much as possible. So I'm going to show you what I used to do that with, and it's just a manual pump. So let me grab that for you. So first, let me show this. You should have, if you want to do this the way that I do it, you should have an assortment of bore brushes. And most of these come with a ring on the end of them, so you can stick your finger in there and pull on it, push on it. I cut the ends of them off so I can chuck it up in just a little drill motor. And that allows me to spin and move back and forth inside of all the galleries. And I've got brushes for pretty much every hole size that we need. Once that is done, then I go through with this. This is just a hand-operated pump, and I put the suction side inside of a gallon container of either mineral spirits or lacquer thinner, and then the other side, the discharge side, just I put at the opening of the gallery and push it through, and then I'll go through all my cam bearing holes and all my main bearing feeds and all that sort of thing. And then I go back after that with compressed air and blow everything out. Then you can take a pen light and shine from one end and eyeball the other end, and you can see how clean you are. So I'm going to do that now, and it's not something I'm going to show on camera, but you know the gist of it. And we're going to get this block very clean, and then we'll go over some paint techniques. All right, I just got through blowing everything out with compressed air. I am thoroughly convinced that this block is clean, so that gives me a warm and fuzzy feeling. So once the final wash is done, then you can paint the block. What I do here is use just old magazines, phone books, catalogs, whatever. And I completely mask off everything that you don't want paint to get to. I have an old ratty timing cover that I will bolt to the front. And then when I flip the block over, then I will mask off and do the same thing to the lifter valley and to the deck surfaces. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then show what that looks like. All right, so we got the bottom side of the block masked off and the oil filter pad. I don't have the nipple that goes in there yet, which makes that easier. so we can flip the block over and do the top side. And here's the top side covered up. I think I ended up using 13 sheets out of one of my supplier catalogs. Get those for free. I do everything online, so I don't need catalogs, but here's what we're looking at. Got everything masked off. Got a shop towel down the distributor hole, and follow the contour of this block because it's got the extra bolt pattern for the profiler heads. But now we're going to just lay some paint down, and I generally either use a duplicolor ceramic or this VHT ceramic, and this is what I'm going to use for this one is GM satin black. We won't tell anybody that's GM color, but this satin black looks really good on engines. And we're going to wheel this outside and lay down some color. I usually just put about 2 good coats on, and that paint does the rest. So we'll get her painted up. Okay, so while the paint is drying on our block, I want to go over the accessory kits for the rest of the block prep. World Products offers this block kit. It's really cheap. It's like 30 bucks, and it comes with a whole lot of things. Your drain plugs for the water on the outside, bell housing dowels, cylinder head dowels, all the pipe plugs for the block, 1/4 inch and 3/8, brass freeze plugs, and then I use, since it's a solid lifter block, I use this Moroso 22016 restrictor kit. Really nice deal. It's got O-rings on it, so it slips in the back of each lifter gallery from the back, and it restricts it down to 60 thousandths to your lifters, which is nice on all of the external pipe plugs. And on the outside of these, when you screw those in, I use this Permatex thread sealant. And then on the outside of the freeze plugs, I just use a silicone. And I'm really dreading putting these in because the last time that I prepped the block with the brass freeze plugs, I ended up having to drive those in with a 3-pound hammer. I have since complained to World that there's just a couple of things that they need to change on their blocks, and they said that their later blocks have been changed. So hopefully, I've got another build coming up with a World block, and hopefully I won't have to use a sledgehammer to drive the freeze plugs in. So we're gonna let her paint cure, and then we'll go over putting some of these accessories on. All right, our block is dried and nice and satiny black. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably do a better job than this at me. I'm not a body guy. I try to make my stuff look as good as it runs, but I'm an engine builder and not a body man, so it is what it is, right? So let's go through and put some of these pipe plugs in. This is an external feed. It's actually a clean out for this main gallery here, and it just gets a pipe plug. This gets a pipe plug, and if you notice, the feed hole is pretty close to the outside. So anytime that you see something like that, measure your pipe plug, screw it in, see how much is sticking out, and then you can do the math and see how much is sticking in. You don't want that hole to be blocked. This is pipe plug, and then this is your oil pressure feed, and I use one of these older oil pressure sending. They call it a sending unit. It's just basically a hexagonal pipe nipple, but it screws in here and it gets everything out of the way. Bell housing, dowels go in, again, more external pipe plugs. This is an external pipe plug, and it's basically a drain for lifter valley oil. And I've got a dry sump motor coming up, a small block 4 that uses one of these blocks, so this will be employed as a scavenge area. This will keep, what we'll do on that block is fill these holes up so that we don't get any oil raining down on the rotating assembly, and then we'll just scavenge from the lifter valley and pull oil out. That makes horsepower, which is good. And then we'll put our restrictors in. That's a lifter gallery feed. That's a lifter gallery feed, so those will get those restrictors. And then the main feed. Block, drain, let's see, this is one, and then it's going to be on the other side, it's going to be back here. So we'll get those in. And then my favorite thing to do, drive these big honking freeze plugs in. Okay, here's this plug that I was telling you about, and I've got it all the way seated. Another way that you can see if it's going to be an issue is just peer down this main feed hole. My pen light is just horrible, but you'll have to take my word for it. I can see all the way down that passage, and that plug does not impede the oil flow, so that's another good way of checking it. Okay, so for these cylinder head dowels, you can get those started, and I just use a little dead blow hammer and drive those in, and then drop them on the floor, which happens. Doesn't take much, then you get those installed. Okay, for our 2 bell housing dowels, I use just a brass drift, ball peen hammer, and drive those in. No big issue there. And then for these pipe plugs here, you just get some thread sealant, screwed in. A little goes a long way here. And then there's another one right here. All right, for our block drain plug, thread sealant on those. Screw those in by hand, and then you can use as a 9/16 wrench. Get those tight, and the same for the other side. Okay, our sending unit extension usually screws into here, but they make this a 3/8 pipe. This is a 1/4 inch pipe, so I just looked them out of the bushings to adapt this down, so we'll have to do that later. But we can do our oil filter. I'm gonna go wash this, but this is an oil filter adapter. Screws into the block, and then your oil filter screws onto that. We get this clean, and then we'll screw this in. All right, so this is clean, and some guys put Loctite on these. I've never seen the need to do that, but they just screw in the block. I put a little bit of oil on there just in case that it ever has to come back out, but I use a big honking Allen wrench and just crank down on that, and then that's good. We can screw our oil filter on when we need to. Unless you're running a hydraulic cam, then you're going to need something like this. World makes it really easy to use these Moroso restrictors. They come with an O-ring, and the O-ring goes around the restrictor, and you lube those up, and then This goes in each lifter gallery feed, and you put a little pipe dope on the outside of this and screw them in. Okay, our restrictors are in, and my advice to you would be put these in the block before you put it on the engine stand. I forget to do that every single time, and it's always hard to get an Allen wrench in there, and because you have to push pretty hard to get those seated, and it would make it a whole lot easier if it weren't on the stand. But got 2 more 3/8 pipe plugs to put in, and then we will be done. Alright, so I looked around the shop a little bit harder, and I found a pipe bushing. So we're going to be able to put this on after all. Got a little bit of thread sealant on it, and 11/16 wrench. And then our extension goes on. It's a 3/4 inch wrench. Okay, we're going to screw our oil filter on just to close off our oil system. And just a tip, put a little dab of oil on the gasket. Makes it a whole lot easier to get off later on. I'm a Wix filter guy. I think they make some of the best filters. Only a few more steps left. I just drove a freeze plug in. I didn't have to use a big hammer, so that's a great thing to do, or great news for me. Only tip I can give is try to get your letters and everything oriented correctly. It's just kind of a pet peeve of mine when people just throw these in there and the numbers are all whopper jawed and everything. If you're able to, use something like a freeze plug driver. And I was anticipating this being harder to put in than what it was, so I used a socket and it left that ring in there. I don't like that at all, so I'm going to switch to my freeze plug driver, and I'm going to get the rest of these in. We have freeze pluggage. We're in good shape now. So in anticipation for the rest of the assembly, we'll go ahead and get the camshaft in it. And we got our bearings back from Calico. So I'll get all the bearings in and the main caps on and torqued. And then at a later time, probably not this video or today, I'll get the new bearing clearances checked. But this is block prep, and pretty pleased with how it's turned out so far. It's a good looking block. Nice paint job. Devil's in the details with all the freeze plug numbering being the same. So we are well on our way. All right, let's get that cam in. All right, so we got our Calico coated main bearings. ahead and get these in. We can get our main caps on. What do you think? Looks bulletproof, doesn't it? Main caps are on. Only thing I'm gonna do before I call it a day is put our new steel cam thrust plate on. I can go ahead and do that. And I don't know, I may get a wild hair after a while and go ahead and check main bearing clearances, but see how I feel. But here she be. Hope I helped you guys, and I really didn't show you anything revolutionary. It's just spray paint and cleaning. But if you've never done it before, maybe you're looking for a direction, and that's fine. But I think, as always, I thank you all for watching. If this is your first time watching, please hit that subscribe button, and I appreciate if everybody hits that like button. And as always, I'll remind you, got a lot of cool things coming down that you'll want to see. Really hoping that I get that special project in next week. Never seen these things in person before, just in pictures. And I would say that most of you all haven't either. So I'm looking forward to getting those in and getting them on video. It is cold here today. We're expecting some snow. And hope everybody stays safe over the long weekend. And I will see you next week. Thanks.